I think everyone needs a coach. I mean, mentorship and guidance have been incredibly crucial in our development as a company. So I thought I'd introduce you to some amazing coaches as part of this special series of Meet My Business. So in today's episode of Meet My Business, we're chatting to Francisco Macedo. We're going to be talking about his business, how he mentors and helps young musicians, and all about his personal history with mentorship and coaching. So Francisco, could you introduce yourself, what you and your company do?
Of course, yeah. So yeah, I'm Francisco Macedo. I did a PhD in mathematics, so I started my career very technical in the beginning. I worked actually in the biggest sports betting company in the world. Then I moved to crypto. So I was working for blockchain.com. Basically my job was to really manage money. So I was managing 300 million for blockchain.com at some point, which has been quite overwhelming at times. So then I started working with a coach in 2020. I kind of changed perspective about where my life was going. So rather than being that person that just wants more and more in terms of the financial side, power, everything, I started to think more of what I actually wanted to do with my life. And so, yeah, I transitioned to being CEO of a startup business that tries to help basically musicians to get more visibility and also more instant monetization, which is still missing, even though we have all these, Spotify, Apple Music, etc. So yeah, that's the business I'm running now. And at the same time, I'm still active in terms of mentoring, teaching different types of people, trying to get kind of traction in their careers. And I'm also doing trading and investing still. And on the other side, I'm also trying to launch something on teaching people about financial literacy, which is something I'm a specialist on. And I really think people need help understanding. And so, yeah, I've seen a lot of interest from people around me, and I just thought, why not, giving it back to the world, since I learned so much on these fields, because I was in the right place in the end.
You said that coaching kind of changed your perspective on life. Could you maybe tell us that story, how you went from, the world of, you said you went from the world of crypto to your own startup. It's quite a drastic shift. So maybe take us through that story.
Yeah. To summarize that part about my past, basically the sports betting, the crypto, all of this is all about trading, right? So it's all about optimizing money. So all you see in your life when you are working on this type of business is really, I want to make as much money as possible, right? And that's really how I was kind of brought up. I was supposed to be this child prodigy on maths, and I just did a lot of mental reasoning very quickly, so I was doing a lot of calculations, and it was impressive for my parents, for the parents of my friends. And so you start to get these kind of expectations around you. And so I just really focused in the beginning on, as I said, getting more money, more power, being the best professional possible, etc. And in 2020, there was a friend of mine who just came to me in the company in blockchain.com. He said, yeah, by the way, I have a coach. Do you want to just talk to him for a bit? It's about life changing, the perspectives that we have for life and everything. And so I tried it out. To be completely transparent and honest, I was just going there because I wanted to be a better leader, to improve even more, to be even more dominant, And so it wasn't really with the right mindset in the beginning. But as the weeks went by and I worked with him for quite a while, basically I just started to be challenged on the basic paradigms I had over my life, why I was giving all my life to work and just, optimizing the amount of time I was spending in front of a screen rather than trying to focus on my real life. And even this basic fact that I love to sing, I've always loved to sing, but I never even thought or even considered a career in music because it seemed impossible, right? It seemed like a hobby, like that's not to make money. So I wouldn't do that. No, it's impossible. And then I was just challenging myself on that, why I didn't pursue a bit more, even as a hobby, like to sing a bit more, to have more fun, enjoy more things rather than just being obsessive about the career growth. And as time went on, I just started to think, if I have this entrepreneur mentality and everything, why don't I just start my own business and actually try to help people rather than try to optimize making money, right? And that's really where everything changes. And that's why I started to think about stage, right? So it's a business where we help musicians, try to launch their career and everything. But at the same time, not only that, but when I quit my last company, I just start to work with people that were kind of not lost, but trying to get them guidance on their professional path and everything. And so I just spent hours and hours talking to people. I mean, people could even consider that mentoring or counseling or whatever. But for me, it was just a natural conversation. And I was having that with a lot of different people, not just musicians, but people in general. So it's not directly related with the app. And so, yeah, I do think I've been kind of shifting the minds of some people and trying to give them as much of a broad perspective of life as I can. And, trying to change that paradigm of let me get as much money as possible right away, or I mean, even as the person who wants to make money, it's not the right first step in a career to just try to make money right away, right? So yeah, I think it's all about just learning and just, trying to be in touch with the right people. Not because of, being good connections in terms of favors or whatever. It's literally because the more people you know, the more you can change your perspectives and like really learn more about yourself even. And so yeah, that's been kind of the big shift. So it took a while and it's still ongoing because it never finishes this type of work that we do on ourselves. But I think it changed a lot of my perspective of life. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you started going through the shifts and started rethinking what you wanted from life, I can imagine that it might have been quite a difficult process at first to undo some of the thought patterns and stuff that you had. Like, did you struggle at first changing your mentality?
I didn't change at first. I still struggle today. So basically on these things, what happens is usually what I always say to people is that awareness comes first and then the action of changing the habits and paradigms comes after, right? So basically you first start by understanding, okay, I'm doing this wrong. No, I'm giving all my life to work. I'm, waking up at the wrong time, whatever, like all these habits that we have that are kind of intrinsic. But then when you think, okay, I want to change this, there's the whole different player where you want to change the habit that you've had for 30, 40 years, right? And I've been studying a bit of neuroscience on this front. And yeah, of course, the patterns that our brain has takes time and takes effort and habits to just replace them. And so even if you know exactly what you want to do with your life, you're still going to tend to do the things the wrong way because that's how you always have done it, right? And so I do think one of the main questions I had for my coach in the first 5, 6 months was, okay, so now I'm very aware. When does it actually change? Because I'm still doing all the wrong things, So it's quite interesting because it's reflected also in the fact that you can advise people very well, but when it comes to yourself, you are a total mess, right? Because you can always say, oh, that thing's definitely wrong with you. But then when you see it in yourself, even if you know you're doing it wrong, you just struggle to change it, right? And so, and reinforcing habits and everything, I think is really the only way. You just need to define what's good for you and then just try to change it because even if you know exactly what's correct, sometimes you just do the wrong thing.
From those habits and mindset shifts that you've had to change, could you perhaps share one or two very specific ones that you've worked on that you've maybe or are still busy working on?
Yes. So I think the main one for me is that because of, as I said, the child prodigy, etc., you just work like crazy and you just feel like your life was made for a purpose of objectives and being the best you can, right? And so you don't think about humanity, you don't think about, spending time with friends, spending time with family, just really optimize goals, that's really my struggle. And so when my coach told me the first time, you should like at lunchtime, you should stop for half an hour and literally do nothing, just kind of go for a walk, just enjoy life, things, smell things, taste things, whatever. I was like, what are you saying? I mean, that's the waste of time. And that was the first time that it happened. And then when I came back from doing it, I was so stressed because I was like, oh my God, I wasted all this time. I mean, I need to go back to work. And then he was like, are you joking? I mean, that was the first thing you did this week that was actually relevant because it was the first time you tried to change the paradigm that you have and tried to change the habit that you have. And this thing kind of took some months to really just chip in, but when I really thought deeply about it, I was like, wow, that thing was really deep because, all the things I was doing automatically thinking I was being so efficient, so productive, etc. They were just a repetition of habits that were just, useless in the sense that I was not improving as a person because I was just doing the same all over again, And so, yeah, that 30-minute habit, I think changed a lot. And of course, over time, the meditations and everything is something I introduced. So usually I do 45 minutes per day of meditation nowadays. And yeah, it was a struggle to even kind of make sure that my brain was not thinking of all the things I was going to do next rather than just being in the present, And so, yeah, I think being in the present is a big, big challenge for me. And it still is, every time I have a goal, every time I'm excited about some piece of work I have to do, I just leave my life behind and just focus on that. And sometimes in an obsessive way, I don't even enjoy what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get it done, And that's still there. Yeah, for sure. But I just try to develop mechanisms to fight it and just to be able to know when it's triggering and just try to, do something else. For example, singing or something. Sometimes, that you just stop for 5 minutes and you sing a bit. And for me, it works very well. And so it's completely crazy. Yeah. But that's the thing. You need to just kind of play with your brain the way that he plays with you,
One thing that's really surprising for me is how difficult it can be to relax sometimes. You'd think it's easy, but when you keep going and keep going and keep going, you get to a point where like you actually really have to schedule relaxation time sometimes, or you have to like really make an effort to do nothing, which seems so counterintuitive, but I'm sure a lot of people relate to that.
No, agree. I wouldn't say it's most people, but I think, for example, my paradigm is, I think it's that there's not enough time, right? I'm worried about legacy, about building something special. And I'm always counting the time. I'm always thinking, oh my God, my life's going to be over anytime, you know? And so instead of thinking my life can be over tomorrow, so I should enjoy it, I think my life can be over tomorrow, so I need to get things done, you know? And I think a lot of us have that paradigm, right? And so in society, people know that there's harm in being an alcoholic or drug addict, etc., but people don't see the harm in being a workaholic. And I think if you analyze the amount of people who achieved something, but at the expense of being miserable and just, trying to produce and not actually thinking of their own lives. And in this century, I think that's going to be the major shift that's going to happen. You are not going to have leaders who just want to be tough and to be showing that they have no emotions, but rather people who want to get the others involved. And the more vulnerable you are, the stronger you show you are, which is the opposite from what people thought before, right? Because if a leader can be so vulnerable that it trusts that even if people see their vulnerability, they're not going to try to explore it and just try to take advantage of it, then it's because this person is strong, right? Not that someone who tries to pretend they are very strong and very tough, because yeah, for me, that's superficial. And I think being workaholic, it's just, one of those things that's a bit like, the mental health paradigms. Like people just didn't think it made any sense or could be something relevant. But I think both of those sides, like making sure people are not overworking and they have space for creativity and to build the business. Because even personally, I spend so much time executing stuff that sometimes I struggle to plan and to just make a proper, plan of what my future is going to look like. Because if you just keep spending your life executing, you just don't have that time to just take a step back and think, And so even for the meditations, I think that's a very important time I spend sometimes just really thinking about, what I'm doing, direction I'm going. And yeah, for sure. I think the inability to relax is one of those things that's like a paradigm we have in our lives. It's usually, I was made for work. I was made to collect salary and just go back to it next month. Even for me, I was making money on trading for a long time. And even though I had clearly independence because I was earning more on my side rather than with the salary, I was still feeling like I needed to be in the company because I felt more secure. I felt like we are kind of victims of institutionalization, right? Because we just think if we don't have a company that takes care of us, we are lost, And for me, I had more than enough money. And I was still working for someone just for the sake of it. And at the same time, I was working as if I had no money and I was dependent on it, Like I was just working like crazy 7 days a week. And I guess in the end, it comes down to also kind of personal security. If you just feel that you need validation, that you feel that you need people to like you and everything, that's gonna lead to all of this, this dependency and this kind of wanting to show your boss that you are the best and, just doing life behind your work. And yeah, there's just so many paradigms we have that I think the inability to relax comes from a cross of all these paradigms, to be honest.
That's super fascinating. And I genuinely think so many people are struggling with the exact same issue. So, okay, getting on to our next discussion then, your startup and the whole shift that you've taken has led you to this like hyper creative endeavor, something that's actually quite different to what you're doing previously. Let's talk a bit about your company, what it does and how you're busy helping musicians.
So the idea was, it was not just mine, of course. So me and a friend of mine who's a singer, we kind of thought for a long time we had to work together because we both have this mentality of creating things and being entrepreneurs and, just trying to make a difference in the world. And him being a singer and me being someone who actually is singing now, like as a part-time, just a hobby, of course, but being so passionate about it, we just thought it should be about music. And then the fact that really made us frustrated was the fact that artists don't really monetize right now. So they are creating these amazing pieces of art. They're creating these things that are just, they're just changing millions of people's lives, right? Because if you listen to a song that touches you and that makes you vulnerable, that makes you cry, it's improving your mental health. It's improving your health overall, right? And so why these people not get the money that they should get, right? Because of these middlemen, because of all these agencies that are actually taking all the money. So artists end up not getting the money they deserve and the recognition also. But the recognition, I think, is changing a bit because, of course, before the labels would pick everything that goes to the radios and stuff. But nowadays you have the Spotifys, you have the YouTube. So people can actually get visibility without, the labels, which is a good thing. But the monetization is still a problem. Like Spotify, YouTube, they still get most of the money, right? So the artist ends up showing the work to millions of people and gets no money to even live from, And that was really the thing that we thought, this is unfair. Like, we need to change this, So for me, rather than aiming to become semi-professional at singing or whatever, I felt like my mission would actually be to help the ones that are creating those pieces of art and just really make sure that they earn properly. I think that can create a lot more difference than if I just started singing by myself, and try to create something there. Of course, I still sing and I love it, but yeah, I just saw the world in a different way. And I just really wanted to scale something that could help millions. And so, yeah, we created this app. So the artists and users can enter this app. So it's a bit of a TikTok-like experience, but people can enter as a user or as an artist. And if you enter as an artist, you can apply yourself for competitions like in The Voice or American Idol, X Factor, etc. And then the users can vote for you, right? So you can progress through the rounds, same format, right? So the more votes you get, the more you progress to the next rounds. But the difference is that 30% of the money that's voted for the artist is going to go to the artist direct, right? So imagine The Voice. People take their phone, they vote 60 cents or whatever, depends on the country. For each vote, they pay like almost €1, right? With us, people who vote €1, they give 30 cents to the artist, right? So it's very different from nowadays where the artist sees nothing, right? There's no money coming in. Even the person who wins the whole thing, The Voice, American Idol, they get some, thing where they can learn a bit about music. They can go 2 or 3 weeks to an intensive course but then they are usually connected to a label and they cannot leave it, So they are kind of exclusively bounded, And so the freedom doesn't really exist and the financial freedom even less, right? And for us, it's just to free the artists. And so just to make sure that the people who deserve to make money, they're actually going to make it, right? And avoid the big middleman, because there's definitely parts that are important about the middleman. So agencies manage the career of the artist in terms of the PR, in terms of, different things that they need. But at the same time, they just charge too much for it and the artist doesn't even understand, doesn't see an option, right? And that's our idea, yeah. So we launched the app last week, actually. And for now, we are just really trying to get a lot of artists and show them what they can gain from this. And then, of course, they're going to hopefully bring their fan base and everything. And once their fans start to vote for them, they make money directly, which is, it's the best scenario because it's a win-win-win. Like the artist gets helped, like the person actually supports the career of the artist as they want. And at the same time, of course, like it's good for both sides in that sense and for the company, because of course in order to survive, of course, you're going to take part of those proceedings, but we just, in order to scale more, to reinvest in the business. So, that's the ideal scenario.
I love that. What is the name of the app and how can people get a hold of it?
Yeah. So the app is called Stage. So the first version, the pilot version we did was just for iOS. So for now it's just for iPhone. It was easier with Apple, and we thought if we try it with Apple and everything works smoothly, we prove the concept, then we can expand to others and, have a more third-party payment systems and stuff like that, which are more complex. But at least test the concept first. But yeah, you can find as Stage music competitions in the Apple Store. If people want to be artists but they don't have an iPhone, we also created a web app that can be used for people to just submit their videos and they can be in a competition even without having a profile through an iPhone. So that's something that we thought was relevant because, of course, we want to allow every artist to show their work. The only restriction is on the people who vote need to have an iPhone for now. That's the only thing.
It's such an amazing thing you're doing because I know as someone who has worked on music and put out music, how much of a grind it is. You put in hours and hours and hours of your life, your blood, sweat and tears into this artistic endeavor that will most likely not give you money, at least from the music itself. You have to monetize through gigs and through merch and through all of those things. And if you don't have a fan base yet, it's really hard to do so. And I mean, even the artists that have millions of streams on these big platforms are getting like a fraction of a cent per stream. So the fact that you're like directly monetizing, and I think the competition route is a really interesting one. It's not something that I've actually seen in this space before, at least not in the form of an app, as you said, usually in the form of TV shows. And I think it's bringing that concept into a new age as well. So one final point of discussion I'd like to talk about is, so if you look at your journey, you went from being in the financial sector, going through coaching and, a mindset shift, starting your own company, starting your own platform. And now part of this has also been slowly but surely mentoring musicians, mentoring the kinds of people that you want to work with now. How has that been for you? And what kind of experiences have you been having as a mentor?
The fun part about mentoring is that from the moment you are able to teach something, that's when you really kind of understand that you got the concept, right? So for example, if I go to my mentor and it teaches me something and I try to apply it, I start to do all these things until the moment I can actually pass it to someone else and I can really allow people to use it, I think I'm not doing my job. And the first session I had with my mentor in 2020, he told me, one day you're going to either be a mentor or be like a leader. And I was like, I want to be a leader. I don't want to be a mentor. I mean, that's boring. And then I realized over time how that's really part of it, right? So if you want to be a proper leader, you really have to be a mentor, right? Because everyone around you needs to be kind of brought up in a way, kind of taught about a lot of things. And I really think the best definition of leader is someone who is ready to create other leaders, right? So you want to allow other people around to grow and to understand the point of view you have and to really mature the way that you did and just try to pass all that information. And if you start to create leaders like you, then that's when you are a good leader in the end. And so the mentoring started very, very, very informally, as I said, right? So when I was about to leave blockchain, I had a couple friends, close friends that I had some weekly calls and stuff, just discuss, their career path, like how they thought of their lives, like, all their habits, what could change, I've always been very obsessed with calendars and habits and everything. So of course, some people took kind of me as a reference in terms of, just in the sense of planning things properly, like how to split time over their week, and just really not waste time on things that were not material because time is limited. I always say that, time is the most important thing because it's the most limited thing we have, right? And so, yeah, I just started to have these conversations. And of course, as time went on, I started to meet some artists because of the platform, because of the app. I started to get in touch with them, not just in the sense of, there's this app, I'm going to help you with this, but also just, giving them advice for their career and everything, right? So in a way, I did the work that the label should be doing, which is, like advising the artist optimally in terms of what steps they should take and everything. And so, yeah, I have a couple of artist friends who just, take my advice, but more in the sense of, financially and how to progress, in different ways on their career and make decisions, because typically artists sometimes are a bit more creative and less rational about the decisions on the career and everything. It's not all the case for all of them, of course, but sometimes this can happen. And I think it's really important to have someone that's more kind of, biased towards the over rationalization and overthinking, just like I am. And yeah, it has been quite interesting because you also get to see different personalities, see how different people think differently than you. Because before, for me, it was like either you are very rational or it doesn't make sense. Why are you not rational? And right now I see that there's left brain, right brain people, and it's really amazing to coordinate to just, for me, it's fascinating because I managed to start working with artists closely that I see their potential and not just look at them and say, oh, you're different from me. So I don't like that. No, you need to just embrace these differences and just think, okay, if this is different from me, then I can learn something from here. Right. And so even being more human, being more emotional and allowing myself to be vulnerable, that also comes from inspiration of different people that I've been in touch with all these years, right? So I see mentoring as a two-edged sword, right? Because on the one hand, you are teaching. In theory, that's the definition, the concept. But at the same time, you're always learning, right? Because you hear from different experiences, different people, different personalities. You just get to learn even more, And so, yeah, it's a never-ending role. You just keep learning. That's the most important part, I think. Just you need to acknowledge that things change. Things will change. And just, understand that everyone's different. There's different personalities and you just embrace that fact rather than just fighting against, so that's it.
Francisco, thank you so much for your time. It's been an incredible interview. I really, really genuinely love, as someone who is, as I said, a musician, love the work that you're doing. It really is refreshing to see someone take this kind of stance for musicians and standing up for the odds.
Thank you.
If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but don't really know where to start, go to our website, baird.media. That's BAIRD.media. You can find the book, Become a Podmaster, everything you need to know to master the art of podcasting. And you can also sign up to one of our mentorship programs, where we help you figure out, develop, and produce your show from start to finish.